Okay, so welcome to part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, then there will be a link below and you can enjoy the beginning of this illustration. So here you will see my struggles with this dip pen because it's not a great one. So this is a very old one that I still have from like my college years, from like 16-17 years ago, and yes, it's not great, so I'm trying to do the best that I can with it, but you get the idea. So I'm just doodling random floral images and trying to keep it as varied as possible. So I have some of the larger flowers, some of the smaller flowers, and the idea is that you're not going to look at every single flower in great detail. I wanted it to be very subtle and kind of like very soft and pretty, so that the watercolor comes in together with these white ink floral illustrations and creates a nice little something to look at. So I am well aware that there are very pastel and very light watercolor washes and some are darker, so that will of course determine how much you can see the doodles that you're doing. So there I also went over those marks I did with the brush, just to give again some extra dimension or extra texture to the piece. So here I found a nice pastel area and I wanted to do one of my very favorite doodle flowers, which is this hydrangea I started doing a while ago, and I just absolutely love it. Sometimes I do it with 3 petals and other times with 4 petals. So I also decided to add some of the leaves again, just to keep it more interesting, and different shapes, different forms. So I have about probably 5 or 6 different styles of flowers, and that will be more than enough for this size of illustration. As you can see, I keep dipping my dip pen very frequently into that drop of ink, which I'm keeping close by, and this ink is quite pigmented, and so I had to stop a few times to clean off the nib because it kind of dries rather quickly. So there I'm refreshing the ink because it also started, apart from me using it up for this illustration, it also started drying up. And you can see when the dip pen is freshly cleaned and the ink is fresh from the bottle, then you get the best results. So there is hoping, there is definitely hoping, and I can't wait to receive the 2 different dip pens that I have ordered on Amazon last night and see whether they would do better. I certainly hope so, because I really love this style, and the only off-putting things about it at the moment is this particular old dip pen that I have. And you can also see that although the other flowers that I just did with the fresh ink and the cleaned dip pen here on the peachy pastel watercolor background, it stands out quite nicely still, compared to also the darker parts of the watercolor where the magenta was, and it just gives you a different look. So here again, more peach background and it looks different. it's just like creating a whimsical, beautiful floral forest or floral arrangement, bouquet, whatever comes to your mind. You can do other doodles, you could do face, figure drawings, just to give you a few ideas. I'm definitely going to run wild with this because I'm really enjoying this white ink on watercolor washes style, and can't wait to try more and more different things. So there I'm doing some berries again, trying to add the doodling inside. So the key here is adding these doodle lines which create that details, because if you just draw a floral pattern, it will be like an empty petal. Creating these lines within makes it more interesting. Also, I'm trying to connect the flowers to look like they're coming from somewhere and they are attached to something rather than just floating in the air, because it kind of looked a little bit like that. For my next illustration, I would definitely think of more of a connected illustration, and that's what I was saying in the part 1, that I just decided to go for these individual flowers, just put them next to one another rather than connecting to a like a, you know, one piece of bouquet, and you can see where everything comes to and where the stems are connecting, and it all makes sense. Here it's just doodling, doodling, doodling. I've done a little bit of this here in this peachy corner, which will end up my favorite part of this illustration. So I've done 3 flowers there, and I layered them one beneath the other, and that looks really nice. And again, I think for the next time I would try to do a watercolor wash which is more coherent in the sense that it won't have as much white of the paper left, which I kind of like the highlights and I like the look of it, but I want to try more of a filled in watercolor wash with no highlights, and then I have all this watercolor area to work on, and would be able to create more of those layered petals and flowers. Treat you better if I could just change my words like in a letter. I did some things but I wasn't clear. No, I did it wrong and you did it right. Yeah, that's what you said when you started the fight. We came to an end, I put up this fence, but do you really mean that this is the end? 1, 2, 3 years of silence. Alright, so I managed to use up more watercolors and clean it up. The dish is now usable again. And what I wanted to show you is basically the end result. And I think it looks so pretty and so neat. What you could do is, I left a lot of highlights in between here, but you could do like bigger washes and literally like a block of wash, which I have done here. So I'll try on these bits how this will go. So as you can see, there's a block of watercolor wash, and then I could maybe do like an arrangement of like a little bouquet or a couple of flowers together with stalks as well. So I'm quite keen to try how that would look. Also keeping in mind that the darker the background, the more the whatever you draw will stand out. So I will show you on here again. You can see how much these areas kind of pop. So the darkest they are, the more vivid the flowers will look. But having said that, actually my favorite bit out of this entire thing is this little area here. I just love it. Once I get a photocopier and I'm able to photocopy my art, I really want to do something with this. It just looks so gorgeous. And in fact, this is why I ended up going to the next page here and doing these swatches, because I thought I want to create something bigger on these peachy backgrounds. So these are kind of, this is a peachy one with a bit of pink splatter. Here's a bit more of like a brownie kind of orangey type of color, and then some pink with that in there. So yeah, I just love how these the little hydrangea flowers that I draw with 3 petals. Sometimes I draw them with 4 petals like these. So these are the 4 petal ones, and then the 3 petal. So yeah, I absolutely love how it came out, and it's so much fun. The only thing is I will try to link the dip pens that I got just the other night for you to have a look, because this one is not great. And what happens is, because this is a very pigmented ink, it dries kind of relatively quickly. So you can see this area here is all dried up now and only in the middle. So yeah, it would basically gutter at the back here and dry up, and it would stop flowing, and it means that I literally had to go into the ink every few seconds, and that's what kind of slows down your process. But if I had a good dip pen, I think this would be so much more enjoyable. So for that matter, I couldn't dip it into the bottle of ink directly, because it just wouldn't work that way. And then I had to basically do it this way with a little bit of a few drops of ink, and then going in and just submerging the very tip of it, which means I had to load the tip often. But if I had that issue sorted, which I'm hoping now with my new dip pens that should arrive very soon, then this process would be even more enjoyable. But yeah, so you can do these lovely white doodles. It's so much subtle and pretty. Alright, so this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been really on a watercolor kick lately again. I feel like I have sort of fallen back into love with it, although I never felt like I fell out of love. But you know what I mean. It's just this little passion that you have for watercolor, and sometimes your creative ideas kind of go and sometimes they come, and I feel like they have come back now. So thanks for watching, and see you soon.